who's talking about one of her favorite subjects, which is the rand. And it looks nice from here, but you're going to explain to me that up isn't always good.
Yeah, this is deceiving, but it's not fake news. So let me explain. The chart of the day is the rand, and you'll see that it seems to be going up. But when the rand is going up, that means you need more rand to buy $1. So in fact, this upward trend shows the weakening of the currency, and it was another bad day for the rand after what has already been a poor September. So we thought we'd just show you the general trend. Now, before this weakening trend, this going up, the rand was actually having a pretty good year despite credit rating downgrades and a whole lot of uncertainty. The rand started the year above 13 rand 70. That's about today's level. It then went down to 12 rand 30, which is off the charts. It's so low against the dollar, and that was a significant strengthening earlier in the year. Today it weakened above 1370 again at the close, around 1365. So we're basically back to square one. So what is driving this weakening of the rand at the moment? Well, on the global stage, economies are looking much better, particularly the United States. That's hardened expectations that there will be another interest rate hike in the US this year, which makes America that much more attractive as an investment destination. Emerging markets like our own offer higher rates, but we are seen as riskier. So we could suffer even with a very small increase in the US. So of course there's also local factors like policy uncertainty and politics ahead of the ANC's December elective conference. Some analysts today even saying that KPMG, the crisis there, also weighing on our currency. Well, this weaker rand combined with higher global oil prices is why petrol is going up by between 25 and 29 cents per litre at midnight tonight. Earlier, SABC spoke to Leigh Riley from IG, an analyst. He says that petrol prices are expected to keep pushing higher.
With the amount of instability that we might see on the political front over the next 2 to 3 months, with the very hawkish commentary coming from the United States and the improving economy, in particular in the developed markets, I would expect the rand to subsequently weaken to 13.80 and 14 rand respectively. On the flip side to that, commodity prices, in particular Brent crude, it's very difficult to say, depending on what happens with OPEC and non-OPEC producing countries, whether they're going to abide by the agreement. At these levels, it means that they're making money. It means that they'll probably be fairly happy. I would imagine that we're going to see Brent crude fairly range-bound between this 55 and 60 mark. If that is the case, based on where we are now, then yes, I would expect us to see, unfortunately, worse off fuel prices for local consumers and increased pressure.
You've spoken about this hawkish tone and kind of a downside momentum for emerging market currencies like our rand. How long do you think we can see this trend continuing for, not only with our rand, but other emerging market currencies?
Well, when we look at the dollar relative to a basket of other currencies for the year, so the dollar index or the DXY as most traders would be referring to it, we'll see that the dollar has actually been one of the most undervalued sort of major currencies for the year, and it's only in the last 2 weeks to maybe a month that we've started to see a really strong technical turnaround in the price action. On that dollar index against a basket of 6 currencies, it's now trading above 93, which is a key technical level. It means that we might start to see a further strengthening trend for the US dollar, and combine that with the expectation that the Fed is going to raise interest rates in December, it doesn't bode well for emerging market currencies. On the flip side to that, we need a weaker rand for rand hedge stocks to really perform in our local index. So ultimately, we could actually see our local index pushing to new highs.
Now, Sun International announcing that they're considering the issue of raising money via share deal to deal with their large debt burden of about 15 billion rand, and also talking about pulling assets away from South America. It sounds like they've fallen into a bit of a rut. Was there any reaction on their share price? And what's your thoughts on their current strategy?
I can't comment on the current strategy. They've got to look at, I think, the timing of the acquisitions, the capital expenditure. Unfortunately, they have fallen prey to a number of incidents in Latin America that has forced some of their operations to close for nearly 2 weeks, which hasn't helped some of the revenue that's been generated. But with the current environment, with the amount of feet coming through the door and the amount of revenue that they're generating with all of this going on and the amount of debt that they're currently holding, it just means that shareholders are probably looking for other opportunities. So they're teetering on the edge of a 50 Rand abyss at the moment in terms of the share price. If you look back at it, there's not a lot below here. I think you would have to really look at the business, analyze it, and look at the type of commentary that is coming out from the leadership team and see what their plan is to try and pull this business back from where it is at the moment. If you've got confidence in that, and if you're happy with the type of business that they conduct, then from a value point of view, this could be good for them. But based on the revenue that they're generating at the moment, if we strip out some of those acquisitions, I think they were almost 29% down on their earnings per share. So the increase in revenue that we saw came from the addition of some of their Latin American operations. And I think it's just a question of time. And as I say, it'll really depend on the commentary from the exec and how they take this business forward and what they intend to do in terms of the capital raising to essentially try and sort of rescue this business from where it is now.
So that was Nompu doing that interview out at the JSE, of course, and all those numbers behind there were busy playing out during the course of the day. And where did that leave us in our market? Well, I'll tell you. The Rand was a bit weaker, 13.67 at the close at 5 o'clock, so not great news. And we saw the chart just now. Not a great story at all. But the JSE did rise more than 1%. And as we were saying, Francis, the fortunes of Naspers and Tencent in China pretty much way on the JSE at home.
Yeah, the danger is when Naspers goes down, the JSE goes down. But today, an opposite picture, the Naspers rising by nearly 3%, and most sectors ended higher, so the all-share index adding more than 8%. The JSE is riding a global wave that saw all US markets touch record highs today, driven by optimism around the global economy and the possibility of tax cuts. There's still some faith in Donald Trump's tax cuts. Car makers also reporting strong monthly sales. That was in South Africa as well. Let's take a look at your main financials. Right, audit regulators have told MPs that the investigation into KPMG will be fast-tracked. The Independent Regulatory Board of Auditors is examining KPMG's work and appeared before Parliament today.
It suggested